Hi everyone. Welcome back to Speak Smart IELTS, the podcast where we explore the stories shaping the world around us, from innovation and culture to sustainability and the way our everyday choices ripple through the planet. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a topic that everyone's been talking about: renewable energy. It's in the news, it's in political debates, it's in our homes and our social feeds. But with all that noise, do we actually understand it? Today we're going to peel back the layers and talk about the reality behind renewable energy. What's true, what's misunderstood, and why it matters to every single one of us. When people talk about renewable energy, it often sounds like a dream. Clean power from the sun, the wind, and the earth itself. No pollution, no oil spills, no endless drilling. Just pure, sustainable power. But of course, life isn't that simple. The moment we say renewables, some people roll their eyes, others start arguing, and the rest just quietly wonder, can this really work? So let's take a moment to slow down, clear the air, and look at what's really going on. Let's start with a simple truth. The world has been powered by fossil fuels for over a century. Coal, oil, and gas built our modern civilization, our cities, our cars, our homes. They made life faster, warmer, and more connected. But they also came with a price: air thick with pollution, ecosystems destroyed, and a planet heating up faster than at any point in human history. That's why renewable energy isn't just an option anymore. It's a necessity. Now, one of the biggest things people still get wrong about renewable energy is the cost. There's this idea that green energy is something only rich countries can afford. Something idealistic, but not realistic. But the truth is, that hasn't been true for a long time. The cost of solar panels has dropped more than 80% in the last decade. Wind power has become cheaper than coal in many countries. In fact, renewable energy is now the cheapest source of electricity in human history. Think about that for a second. Cheaper than coal, cheaper than gas, cheaper than oil. Once the panels or turbines are built, the fuel, sunlight, wind, water, is completely free. No digging, no shipping, no fighting over resources. Just nature doing its thing. And yet you'll still hear people say renewables can't power the whole world. They'll say, the sun doesn't shine at night, or the wind doesn't always blow. Fair points, but that's where technology steps in. We're now living in a time where energy storage, smart grids, and battery systems are evolving faster than anyone expected. These systems store excess energy when the wind is strong or the sun is bright, and release it when things slow down. Countries like Australia, Germany, and the US are already running massive battery projects that stabilize their national grids. Energy independence used to sound like a fantasy. Now it's a very real possibility. And here's something even more exciting. Renewable energy isn't just solar and wind. It's hydroelectric power from rivers, geothermal energy from beneath the Earth's crust, even tidal power from the ocean. Together, these sources can form a balanced system, one that doesn't depend on a single energy type. It's like an orchestra. When one instrument quiets down, another steps up to keep the melody going. That's the future of energy: diverse, balanced, and resilient. Another myth people love to throw around is that renewables kill jobs. You'll hear politicians claim that going green means shutting down industries and putting people out of work. But that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the renewable energy industry is one of the fastest growing employers on the planet. Millions of new jobs are being created, from engineers designing solar panels to technicians maintaining wind farms to researchers developing new battery technologies. These aren't just any jobs. They're local, stable, and meaningful. You can't outsource the installation of a wind turbine or the wiring of a rooftop solar system. These are jobs that build communities, that give people pride in creating something cleaner and better. And sure, fossil fuel jobs are disappearing. That's hard. No one should pretend that this transition doesn't have a human cost, but change always does. The key is to make sure we support those workers, retrain them, help them move into new industries, give them opportunities in the clean economy. Because the truth is, we need their skills. The people who built the old energy world are the same people who can help build the new one. Now, let's talk about the environment itself, the one thing renewable energy is supposed to protect. Critics often point out that manufacturing solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries still uses resources, involves mining, and produces emissions. And they're right. No form of energy is 100% clean. But here's the thing. The environmental footprint of renewables is a fraction of that of fossil fuels. A solar panel, for example, pays back the energy used to create it in about 1 or 2 years, and then goes on generating clean electricity for decades. Wind turbines are even more efficient. And unlike oil or coal, once a solar farm or wind turbine is up, it doesn't keep consuming resources or releasing greenhouse gases every single day. The real challenge ahead isn't whether renewables are better, they clearly are, but how we make them even more sustainable. That means investing in recycling systems for old panels and batteries, developing cleaner mining methods, and creating circular supply chains where nothing goes to waste. Imagine a world where the materials from an old solar panel are used to build a new one. That's not science fiction. It's already starting to happen. Another misunderstanding is that renewables are just for rich countries, that only places like the US or Germany can afford massive wind farms or solar fields. But the real growth is happening in developing nations. Countries like India, Kenya, and Brazil are leapfrogging over the fossil fuel stage entirely. Instead of building new coal plants, they're going straight to solar and wind. Why? Because it's faster, cheaper, and more reliable in the long run. A remote village that's never had electricity doesn't need to wait for a grid to reach them. They can power up with solar panels and batteries right now. That's real progress. That's empowerment. And let's be honest, depending on fossil fuels isn't just bad for the planet, it's risky. When oil prices spike or gas supplies get disrupted by conflict, it's often poorer countries that suffer most. Renewable energy, on the other hand, brings stability. You can't control the sun or the wind, but you also can't cut them off. They belong to everyone. Now, one reason myths about renewables keep spreading is because change feels threatening. Fossil fuels aren't just an energy source. They're an identity, an economy, a power structure. Entire regions and generations have been built around them, and the idea of replacing all that with something new can feel like an attack on their way of life. But this transition isn't about erasing the past. It's about evolution, learning from what worked and moving towards something smarter and cleaner. Think of it like upgrading your phone. You don't throw away communication. You just find a better way to do it. Here's another thing people don't talk about enough. The clean energy revolution is about more than technology. It's about values. It's about redefining what progress means. For too long, we've measured growth by how much we consume. More energy, more production, more everything. But now, progress might mean something different. Cleaner air, healthier cities, a livable climate. Renewable energy is just one piece of that puzzle, but it's a powerful one because it changes the foundation of how we live. When you think about it, energy touches everything. The food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe. It powers our hospitals, our schools, our homes. The energy we choose shapes the world we live in. So when people say the shift to renewables is too hard or too expensive, I like to ask, compared to what? Compared to a planet that's becoming unlivable? Compared to wildfires, droughts, and floods that cost billions of dollars every year? The real cost isn't in switching to clean energy. It's in not switching soon enough. The most inspiring thing is that we're already seeing proof that it works. Entire countries are now running on renewable power for days or even weeks at a time. Cities are setting ambitious goals to go carbon neutral. New startups are popping up with creative solutions. Solar paint, floating wind farms, transparent, panels that double as windows. The innovation happening in this field is mind-blowing. And unlike the fossil fuel boom, this revolution isn't just for a few big corporations. It's decentralized. It belongs to everyone. You can be part of it just by choosing where your energy comes from, by supporting policies that invest in clean tech, or even by putting panels on your own roof. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed by climate news, if you've ever thought, it's too late, remember this. Every wind turbine spinning, every solar panel shining, every young engineer designing better batteries, all of that is proof that it's not too late. It's happening right now, and it's happening faster than most people think. Renewable energy isn't just the future. It's the present, unfolding quietly. One innovation, one policy, one rooftop at a time. And yes, there are still challenges. We'll talk about those in the next part. But the momentum is unstoppable. The thing about revolutions is that they don't happen overnight. They start quietly, in labs, in classrooms, in conversations just like this one. And that's exactly what's happening with renewable energy. The transition to clean power isn't a single leap. It's a series of small, steady steps that together change everything. But for that transformation to really take hold, we have to understand the challenges too. Not to be discouraged by them, but to see them for what they are, opportunities to do better. Let's start with one of the biggest ones, energy storage. It's easy to celebrate solar panels and wind turbines. But as we said before, the sun doesn't shine all day, and the wind doesn't always blow. Without reliable storage, we can't have consistent power. That's where batteries come in. Not just the kind in your phone, but massive, industrial-scale systems that can hold enough energy to power thousands of homes. The good news is that battery technology is improving incredibly fast. What used to cost hundreds of dollars per kilowatt-hour now costs a fraction of that. We're seeing breakthroughs in lithium-ion, solid-state, and even sodium-based batteries, which are cheaper and more sustainable. But even beyond batteries, there are other creative ways to store energy. Some countries use pumped hydro, where water is pumped uphill when there's extra energy and released through turbines when power is needed. Others experiment with compressed air, hydrogen fuel, or molten salt systems that can store heat for days. It's like humanity is reinventing the way we think about time itself, not just capturing energy, but learning how to hold it, move it, and release it when life demands it. And then there's the question of rare materials. People often criticize renewables for relying on lithium, cobalt, and rare earth metals, which are sometimes mined under poor labor conditions or cause environmental harm. Those criticisms are valid, but the key difference between this and fossil fuels is that renewables give us a choice. We can change how we source these materials. We can recycle them. We can design alternatives. Researchers around the world are already building batteries that don't need rare minerals at all. Unlike oil, where you burn it once and it's gone forever, renewable materials can circulate endlessly if we build the right systems. Another challenge is the infrastructure. Our power grids were built for a world that relied on centralized plants, big facilities burning coal or gas and sending electricity out in one direction. Renewables don't work that way. They're decentralized. They're everywhere, on rooftops, on hillsides, on lakes. That's a beautiful thing, but it also means our grid needs to evolve. It has to become smarter, more flexible, and able to handle power flowing from thousands of small producers instead of just a few big ones. The good news is that this shift is already underway. Countries like Denmark and South Korea are leading the way with digital grids that can automatically balance supply and demand in real time. Imagine a network that knows when your neighborhood's solar panels are overproducing and redirects that energy to a nearby factory or electric vehicle station. That's not science fiction. That's happening right now. And speaking of electric vehicles, they're another piece of this puzzle. For years, critics said electric cars were impractical, expensive, or just toys for the wealthy. But today, they're transforming transportation. EVs aren't just about cleaner driving. They're becoming mobile batteries. Some models can send power back to the grid during peak hours, turning your car into part of the energy ecosystem. It's a vision where your commute doesn't just use power, it shares it. But let's take a moment to talk about something deeper, the social transformation that comes with renewable energy. Because this isn't just about technology, it's about people. When a community installs solar panels on their rooftops or a village builds its own wind turbine, something powerful happens, a sense of ownership. Energy stops being something distant and corporate. It becomes local. It becomes personal. That's especially true in developing regions, where renewables can bring electricity to places that have waited generations for it. Imagine children doing homework under clean light instead of kerosene lamps, or farmers powering irrigation with solar pumps instead of diesel generators. These are real stories of independence, dignity, and progress. Still, it's important to be honest. Not everyone benefits equally. The transition to renewables can create winners and losers. When coal plants close, entire towns can lose their main source of income. When big companies rush to buy land for solar farms, local communities can feel displaced or ignored. So the real challenge isn't just building clean energy, it's building fair energy. It's making sure the green transition includes everyone, not just those who can afford it. Governments and businesses need to think not only in terms of efficiency, but in terms of justice, making sure workers are retrained, communities are protected, and everyone has a seat at the table. And that brings us to politics, the elephant in the room. Energy isn't just a scientific issue, it's a political one. Fossil fuels are tied to power, to history, to national identity. Changing that system means confronting massive industries, long-standing policies, and yes, a lot of money. But change is happening, even in places you'd least expect. Oil-rich countries like Saudi Arabia are now investing heavily in solar. Nations once dependent on coal are shutting plants faster than analysts predicted. Even corporations that once denied climate change are now investing billions into clean tech. Not out of guilt, but because it's profitable. That's the part people often miss. Renewable energy isn't just good for the planet, it's good business. Investors are realizing that fossil fuels are risky. Banks don't want to fund coal projects that might become stranded assets in a decade. Meanwhile, renewables offer stability, long-term savings, and global demand. The market, in many ways, is already voting for the future, and it's voting green. But let's zoom out for a moment. Beyond economics and technology, there's something emotional about this shift, something human. It's about redefining what progress means. For so long, we've equated success with consumption, bigger houses, faster cars, brighter cities. But the more we grow, the more we realize that real progress might be the opposite, living in harmony, not domination. Renewable energy is part of that mindset. It's not just a tool to reduce emissions. It's a statement about how we want to exist on this planet. I often think about the symbolism of solar power. It's energy from the same sun that rises every morning, quiet, consistent, eternal. There's something deeply poetic about that, isn't there? It reminds us that sustainability isn't about scarcity. It's about balance. The Earth already gives us everything we need. We just have to learn how to take it wisely. And maybe that's why renewable energy inspires so much hope. It's not just a fix. It's a vision of a better way to live. A world where cities breathe cleaner air, where families don't worry about rising energy bills, where nations cooperate over shared technology instead of fighting over oil fields. It's a future where innovation doesn't come at the cost of destruction, where progress and preservation go hand in hand. Of course, there's still a long way to go. We'll need stronger policies, smarter grids, better storage, and global cooperation. We'll have to face misinformation, corporate lobbying, and public hesitation. But every revolution has its skeptics, and every great shift in history, from the steam engine to the internet, began with doubt before it became destiny. Right now, as you're listening to this, somewhere in the world, a new wind turbine is being installed. A village is turning on its first solar-powered light. A scientist is inventing a battery that lasts twice as long. These small, scattered moments add up. They form a pattern, one that points towards something unstoppable. The future isn't waiting for us to believe in it. It's already being built. And maybe that's the most important truth about renewable energy. It's not a myth, not a dream, not a maybe. It's happening. It's real. The only question left is how fast we're willing to embrace it. So, as we wrap up this episode, I want you to think about something simple. Every watt of energy we use tells a story. It can be a story of extraction and exhaustion, or a story of renewal and balance. The choice is ours. If you found this episode thought-provoking, take a moment to share it with someone who still thinks renewable energy is just a buzzword. Let's spread facts, not fear. Let's replace myths with curiosity and skepticism with action. Thank you for tuning in to Mindwaves. I hope today's conversation gave you not just information, but perspective. A reminder that change doesn't happen in a single breakthrough, but in millions of quiet decisions. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, the energy of tomorrow begins with the choices we make today. This is your host signing off. See you in the next episode.